Family, how are you? Welcome to the 24K Life. I'm your host, Derick Gant. And as usual, the 24K Life is all about bringing you the most excellent information we can reasonably find on planet Earth to help you level up your best life. 24K is not about being rich, it's about being excellent. It is about being the perfect person, just like gold. So, in that mindset, we like to bring you information and individuals that can help you fine tune where you are so that you can become the person that you've always dreamed of. You know, we focus on your mindset, on your money, on your body, on your relationships, and on your spirituality. And today, we're diving into the mindset. We have Scott Allan from, he told me today, we have Scott Allan from Japan who is going to tell us all about all the books that he's written based on his practical experience of his years and years of service inside the business community. Hey, listen, we want you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you love what we're doing, it's the only way we can grow and show more people how to live their best life. Scott, welcome.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're very welcome, man. You got that sexy, macho radio voice. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Good, man. Now, where in Japan? I lost my train of thought when I was introducing you. Where in Japan are you?
Sure, yes. I'm just outside of Osaka. So we have
Osaka.
Yeah, Osaka, yeah. There's Kobe, and then there's Hiroshima. So I'm kind of in between Hiroshima and Osaka.
Okay, now are you from there? Were you born there? Did you transplant there for work? What tell us how you got to Japan?
Sure thing. Yes. No, I'm not from here, but I came here back in 98. So I've been here for about 25 years. Originally, I am from Halifax, Nova Scotia in Canada.
Okay. Canadian.
Yes.
So how long have you been in Japan?
I've been here for about 25, 26 years now.
Okay.
And how I got here is a bit of a story. So I think a lot of this actually leads into the work I've created, the books I've created.
Mm-hmm.
And just going back a few years, I was in this moment in my life where I was going through a transition. In other words, I needed to change the way that I was living. So what I decided to do is make a decision to do something that I'd never done before, or that anyone else that I know of has never done before. And I thought, why not move to the other side of the world and check things out there and start a new life? So that is what I did. But leading up to that, I had discovered a book by Tony Robbins called Awaken, the Giant Within. And when I read that book, it changed a lot of my thinking. Basically, it changed my mindset. It set me on a new trajectory where I started to craft out a system of goals. I built a dream, and that dream started to manifest itself into something that eventually landed me here. But in order for me to get here, I had to work for about a year in order to save some money. And then I ended up finding a job here before I came. So I had something lined up. But it was with a company who had a bunch of business schools in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and they brought like 3 people over every year. So I ended up having an interview with them, and they selected me as one of the teachers that they wanted to bring over for 1 year. And then that was it. They brought us over, set us up with a car, a house, some money, and I was good to go. I thought, this is great. I doubled my salary overnight by coming here. I was living in a new country, and I thought, I think I'm going to stay here for a while. So I pretty much decided that I wanted to stay, within like a week of being here.
Wow. So you said that there were some prevailing things that led you to want to make a major change. And then when you made the decision to want to make a change, you ran into the Tony Robbins book. What was going on in your universe, in your life, that made you decide, hey, I really need to do something different, something that's going to be dramatic, that's going to be transformative?
Yes, for sure. So I'd spent a lot of time partying, drinking, And that was just my life for a long time. And that was really good until I wanted to stop that way of living and I couldn't. So that led into a problem with, I had an addiction to alcohol and I had other things that were going on. So I got myself cleaned up and with a lot of help, I ended up getting some mentors and sponsors and went to a lot of AA meetings and I just got my head clear because that was really, that way of life was just something that it only served me for a very short time. And then when I wanted to, give it up, I couldn't, and it wouldn't let me go. So I
Gotcha.
made a decision. Yeah, I made a decision that I'm going to change this thing. And so, yeah, I spent probably a year or two just cleaning things up, getting my mind right, actually.
Mhm.
And after that, I started to, things started to happen after that. Like I discovered Tony Robbins' book, I discovered other books, and it wasn't like they just fell into my lap. People would actually, show up in my life, introduce me to a new concept or new idea, and they would introduce me to a new book, or they'd introduce me to somebody who had something that I could learn from. So I started to, get all this, information, and that information led to new leads in life, and then it led to new ideas. And then I met somebody who had traveled overseas, and so people were telling me about their stories about
Mhm.
traveling, and that just, I think that planted a seed in my mind. It's like, wow, that sounds like a really interesting thing. Wouldn't that be great if I did something like that? Because I'd
Right.
never been anywhere just before. And I wanted to, there was something in me that wanted to live this life of adventure and excitement that was outside of the whole, partying bar scene, which, I was done with. But
Right.
once I broke away from that and I started to build this vision for a life that possibly could happen, that changed everything. And I turned my apartment into a vision board. And I had on my walls, I had all these places of, like pictures of places I wanted to go, like in Australia and Thailand and Vietnam. And I don't know where this was coming from. It was just every day I just would wake up with this, it's like I was building a dream. And then every day I was manifesting, the possibility of it becoming a reality.
And how are
Well,
you doing that?
yeah. So I would go to the library, get a bunch of books on these places that I wanted to visit, and I would just spend time going through these books and learning different languages and connecting with people who are actually doing it. So
Nice.
mm,
So I really feel that, and you tell a great story, because I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm imagining you putting these things up on the walls of your apartment, and I'm imagining you like papering your bedroom, and you've maxed out on that, so you move to the front room, and now you're in the bathroom, and you're sticking post-it notes up, and the refrigerator's loaded. So you tell a great story. I really like that. I like the the idea that you took the reins of your life and you made a decision, and then you just decided not to let go, and
mm.
you started to really walk that through. So other than the books, um what prepared you to go to Japan? I mean, you said you went to as a teacher. I thought I heard you say that you were selected as one of the teachers. Were you teaching English? What were you teaching?
Yes, I was teaching business English. I'll just back up a little bit. There's a bit of a story there. So when I started to, have this vision of traveling overseas, my roommate had brought home the newspaper one day, and I don't read the newspaper, but on this particular day, something told me to open it up, and I did. And when I did, there was an advertisement right there in the middle of the page, and it said "Teach English in Japan. Apply now." And that's exactly what I did. I spent a whole day just crafting out, a good resume, a cover letter. I sent that to, the address in the paper, and they got back to me, and I had an interview, and they decided to bring me over. So they prepared us for everything. Actually,
Okay.
they gave us the tools to come over. They gave us some training, but to be honest, I couldn't speak the language. I couldn't hold a pair of chopsticks, so I didn't have a lot. When we got here, they set us up with everything, and just basically would give us an address of a place to go. They gave us the materials. And so the company I was working with, they specialized in sending people to companies like Panasonic and Toyota and, all
Mhm.
this like big name
Right.
factories. And I would go in there and basically do presentations for executives and people who would take business trips overseas where they had to interact culturally with people in America and Europe. So it's rather interesting. I got to learn a lot about other countries' cultures without going there, just by teaching other people how to do it. So
Okay. So you're thank you for that, because that was a very interesting step that is definitely worth highlighting,
mm,
because I believe that it's called the reticular activating system. When you put out in the universe what you want,
mm,
and you say it and you live it and you think it, that your creative subconscious starts to identify things. Now, for you, it doesn't sound like it was your reticular activating system. It sounds like it was right. It was God. It was right in the middle of the newspaper going, bro,
mhm,
here you go. Is what you asked for. So that's awesome.
mm.
So you got there, they prepared you. You told us about everything that they did, which is incredible, because you didn't have to stress out about it, and you just had to just kind of follow a map. When did you feel that you were incredibly prepared to start teaching other people some of the principles that you live by?
That probably came about 5 years later. So I've always been into reading, self-help books, listening to radios, podcasts when they started to come around. And I just became a sponge for this information.
Mhm.
And the more I learned and practiced, the more confident that I became that I could actually teach this to other people. So the concept for actually putting a book together probably came around about, I'd say, around the year 2010, when I actually got serious about the writing. And this came about as an intentional decision where I'd been talking about it for a long time, telling my friends I'm going to write a book. And, they were like, oh, yeah, sure. Here he is again, talking about this thing he's going to do. And I think they were basically telling me, you've been telling us about this for a long time. Where's the book? And I realized that I had to take action on this, not to show people that I could do it, but I felt driven and compelled that this is the next step in my universe. This is what I had to do. And what I really wanted to do. So it went from an obsession to an obsession.
It
And
went to let's say that again. It went from what to what?
oh yes, it went from a passion to an obsession.
Okay, okay.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So, do you think that people need to be obsessed to really accomplish something big, something transformative?
That's a great question. No, they definitely do not.
Mhm.
That just happens to me when I get locked onto something. I don't let it go. So I could use this as an example of, how I got to Japan. It was like that became everything.
Mhm.
And that just became my funnel, or, and it became my tunnel as well, where I was just locked onto that one thing. Same with when it came to writing the material, is that, if you wait for confidence to show up before you do something, or if you wait for motivation, you're probably not going to get something done. So I had to
Right.
turn it into something greater, and for me, it was just a matter of like showing up every day and developing that mental toughness to just keep pushing forward, even on those days when I didn't want to. And what I loved about this, when I put my first book together, or I should say, it was probably ended up to be 3 books, because I spent 3 years writing a lot of content. And what I would actually do is I would meet with my friends and I would practice some of these strategies on them. And they were patient enough to just you know sit down with me for an hour and listen to it. But then they actually started using it themselves. I would tell them about, if you want to make something happen, you have to set out your goals. You have to do this and that. And people started working with it and getting some pretty good results. But anyway, I did end up finishing the book, of course, publishing it eventually.
Mhm.
And then, the story just went on with, I just didn't stop, basically.
Man, that is awesome. So, have you written more than one book?
We just launched a new one this week. I have about 35 to 40 in the marketplace. And depending on the book, I'm published in about 16 countries. So
Mhm. That's excellent. So, are all the books self-help?
they are, for the time being. I do love fiction, and that's
Mhm.
actually what I started out writing, because I just love storytelling, and I still do. But here's the thing: is like I had a choice to whether I want to write the fiction and go that path, or create the self-help, personal development, nonfiction books. And I just felt compelled to take that route.
Okay.
And yeah, I just sat down, came up with an outline for the book, started writing, and I just kept going and going until I had something that I felt was, enough to, was good enough to publish.
Right. Now, do you use the same publisher and editor, and you have a system now for your books that you've produced?
I certainly do, and I'm always refining that system. So I started out it was really just me in a room, pen to paper, and eventually I went to the computer and just started, typing everything up. But this was way back in, probably we're talking like 10 or 12 years ago. But now, I mean, yes, I have a small team that I work with. I have 3 cover designers, a couple of formatters, and occasionally I'll use somebody to create additional content. So I've got somebody for every piece of the process.
Okay.
This was something that, I had to build over time, and how to hire people and bringing people on board and giving them training and creating playbooks. So yeah, I would say that there's a pretty good system in place, but I'm always looking for ways to make it, more efficient, more productive, making better material actually that is concise to help people achieve their goals.
So you walked right into my question that I was formulating in my mind as you were talking, and that is, what part does AI play in your future of producing content?
Oh, I love that question. So as most people know, ChatGPT and Bing, and there's a lot of other AI tools. I'm actually in that space where I'm testing new tools all the time. I started pushing AI about, let's say, about a year and a half ago, and I started testing with it to see what it could do.
Okay.
And just to give you an example, like, I would always spend a week or two doing an outline for the book, crafting out the ideas and everything. And that's great. I mean, that's, I would put a mind map up on the wall and stuff like that. But when I started using AI for this, it accelerated the process from like what I could do in 2 weeks, I was now doing in 2 hours.
Wow.
And now what I could do in 2 hours, I'm now doing in about 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So I just got better at this. So again, when I get locked onto something, I'll test it, create a system for it, put the system into play, and then we'll just refine that system as we go.
Now, so what do you think about, you hear some advertisements here and there about, people using AI to write books. And I'm not against it by any stretch of the imagination. I'm all for it. But the question then kind of becomes, how much experience does a person need now to produce content that's quality content? I've been doing what I've done a little bit longer than what you've been doing what you've done. And you said, hey, it's 25 years ago, I met Tony Robbins or introduced Tony Robbins. I've been an investment guy for 30 years, like on the job. So I consider myself a bona fide all-star, all-pro, Hall of Fame, expert at what I do, because I've only done the thing for so long. But, somebody comes around and says, I want to write a financial book or investing book, and they go to AI and they kick something out. Don't get me wrong. I understand it's not going to be, perfect, because they don't know what to edit, because they don't have the practical experience, but they still could probably produce a pretty good book.
Yeah, that's a great question. So here's the thing. Yes, I think so. Just to go back a little bit, I'm not using AI to write the book. Now, there is a software that I'm testing that potentially can do that, and it looks.
Yeah, but you're a bona fide expert, so we're not even questioning you. We don't even need you to explain. You've written 35 books before AI popped up, so we're not questioning you. I'm just asking, your perspective, because AI is just going to enhance what you, just like if I wrote another book, I wrote a book, the 24K Life Code. If I wrote another book, it's just going to make my end game quicker, because I know exactly, what's what, and I know how to massage it. Maybe you need a little bit more work on prompting, but for the most part, I am the content, and I can use AI to help me say it better, do it quicker, research. But my question really is, what's your thought about, like, these people that pop up with, they were washing cars yesterday or changing the oil, which nothing wrong with that. And they decide they want to be, they want to talk about, self-help, or they want to talk about money management or something along those lines.
Yeah, great question. So my take on that is that they'll never make it as a writer or as a business. And the reason for that, there's a big disconnect between, yeah, sure, anybody can pump out some content, but put them on stage to try and talk about it and see what happens.
Yeah, there you go. Good answer, bro. Yeah. Good answer. I love that. So let's talk about your business. I know is your business creating books and the content, or do you do coaching? Do you are you a Tony Robbins protege? Tell us about what you do.
Sure. So I create the content, and then I get onto the stage, or I get into interviews and I teach people the strategies for that. Yes,
Okay.
I do a lot of coaching as well. I've been doing coaching for years on how to teach people how to write books, market books,
Mhm.
and that's been wonderful. I've enjoyed that. However, outside of that, I think the bigger driver for me is really to, yeah, well, if we use Tony Robbins or anybody who's doing motivational speaking as an example, that's really where my strength is, and that's where
Okay.
my passion is. So,
So when I pre-interviewed you for the podcast, because I pre-interview everybody, and I never ask anything specific because I always want to be surprised. But I
mm,
did actually do a little bit of homework,
mm,
and you um, are big on having people actually transform. But most people are so set in their ways. Tell us, like, one or either one idea, one concept, one training, something that you use that you have found that to be more effective, producing results for people who seemingly are in their own way.
mm. Yeah, for sure. So one of the reasons most people struggle to transform anything is due to a lack of clarity. So when I'm working with someone on that or teaching them the framework, the first thing we do is get them to sit down, and myself as well, I take this practice very seriously. I'll sit down and make a list of the things that, first of all, what would I like to achieve in 5 years or 10 years from now?
Mhm.
What's my clarity? Like, what is the action steps that I need to take towards this dream? We can call it a goal, but what it really is having that big vision for your life. Now, that's hard for a lot of people. I get it, because if something's 5 or 10 years away, we're probably going to procrastinate on working towards it. So we break it down into smaller steps. It really has to be smaller goals. It has to be something that's actionable, and the result has to be tangible. They have to actually see that the transformation is happening.
Mhm.
Because if they don't see those results, they're going to pull back, procrastinate, and probably go, watch TV or something like that.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So
interesting, man, because people always say, "Well, I want to do better," or "I want a better life," or "I want to lose weight," or "I want to be able to fit in this," or "I want to feel better about myself." And then when that alarm clock goes off, man, they smack that snooze button like there's
mhm,
like there is tomorrow, And so it's I find it interesting, and I honestly, being totally honest and naked here, I honestly wonder if you have like a special gene, you know, I know a gentleman, an older gentleman that every day he'd come home and he'd after work, he worked at a factory. He'd take a shot, he'd pour a
mm,
glass, take a shot, pour another glass, take a shot, and he did it every day. And I don't think he was alcoholic, but it was just his routine. And
mm,
one day the doctor said, "Hey, if you don't stop drinking, period, you're going to die in the next, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years."
mm,
And he stopped like that day, and I was amazed. I was amazed because most people in the eye of death won't stop smoking.
mm,
Or they won't stop doing the thing that's hurting them. And so, I don't know, man. I think that it sounds like you've had some practical testimonial results with people that have actually applied your books, your content, your practices,
mm.
and have changed. So what do you think is the separating factor between people that talk about it and people that do it?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm really big on is listening to other people, like following my mentors, coaches,
Mhm.
people like, sure, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Mel Robbins. There's a whole list of people that are out there that have the experience and the content to help us change. Now, you do have to make an intentional decision that you want that thing, and that's the thing where I think a lot of people, they stumble over that, is they don't actually make the decision. They talk about it. They think about it, and then you're right. At the end of the day, they come home and they just end up doing the same thing over and over again. And when you do the same thing over and over again, we can call that a habit, but it's really the behavior is just, it doesn't change, right?
Mhm.
So we'll have to change the behavior. Now, to your the story you told about the gentleman who comes home and drinks, a shot every night, and that's his routine. He got scared by the thought of death. That doesn't actually, that I don't know if that would scare me or not. I might just continue on my way, especially if I felt that hopelessness and helplessness in my life. That's going to be really hard for me to change. So
Mhm.
that doesn't always scare a lot of people, but
It
um,
scared him. He lived many, many, many years. So
hmm.
it actually helped him live a better life. So what would you want people to do? Obviously, you want them to buy your books. Where can they go to learn more about you and your practices and your mission?
Yeah, they can visit scottallenpublishing.com if they want to go to the website.
Okay.
scottallenbooks.com. We sell the books directly there, but I think more importantly is that I'm doing a lot of interviews, and I'd love for them to just watch the watch the trainings, watch the interviews. I'm
Okay.
developing a course platform now that'll be live in a few months. So
Nice. Now,
yeah,
where is that going to be housed?
that'll be housed on scottallenpublishing.com and
Okay.
School. Yeah,
Okay.
building it out everything out on School, which I think Alex Hermosi probably has an investment in that. So
Mhm.
yeah, so you
Yeah.
can find yeah. But once we launch the platform, we're going to do some pretty big campaigns around that, and the reason that I've been holding off on building it out this long is that I just wanted to produce a lot of content, test it in the marketplace before creating the courses. So now we're putting those together, and feeling very confident that they'll do well. So,
So are these courses like school? Like you'll have some homework, you have to fill out some reports, you'll have to do some research. What's the courses going to be like?
yeah. So the first course that we're working on is Do the Hard Things First, based on the book that I have. And there's 4 books in the series, but we're going to be breaking those down into mini courses first, testing them. The first one will be on how to, break bad behavior and overcome procrastination. So, but the courses depends on, the goal for each course, of course, is to help people to overcome an obstacle that is in their way, that's making us stuck, something that's going to be able to help people to move forward and create a destiny for themselves. I'm all about creating the great life, the destiny that's someday you're going to look back and go, wow, I'm really glad I did that thing, or i'm,
Right.
I'm so glad I made that decision. Because for me, that's it's okay to have a regret or two, and we all look back and there are things that we wish we had done. But I want people to be able to look back and say, I wish, I'm glad I did that. Because I think a lot of people look back with regret and say, I wish I had done that thing and I didn't. And
Right.
that's yeah, I don't know, not a way I want to end up. So
Yeah, I hear you. That's great, man. So are you have you created the life that you want, or are you still on your path?
I have, yeah. However, having said that, I think I'm always looking to, what is the next stage, right? Because there has to be something more that's, for me anyway, I'm very fulfilled, very happy. I've got 2 great kids, a business, live in a great place. But there's still something where it's like, okay, well, I've come this far, but what else could I achieve? Like, where else could I go with this? And so I'm always looking for that next level where it's not about getting a bunch of stuff and becoming rich and famous. And,
Mhm.
I mean, that's all good and everything. Great. But I want to see how far can I go with this thing, because I think, as you mentioned, like, time is limited. We always think we have tomorrow, but do we
Right.
really have tomorrow? All I can tell you is every day I wake up, and if the day is still here, I can look outside and go, well, it's another day, another opportunity, another chance to do something great.
Amen, brother. That is a great place to stop. And I appreciate you and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Hang on for a second. Let me finish up here. So, he said the big vision. You got to have the big vision. Now, I agree with him. You don't have to be obsessed. I spent some time in my life accomplishing some things that I got obsessed about, like myopically obsessed, and ended up getting sick, like stressing out, having a blood clot. So my body physically rebelled against all that aggression I was putting out in the universe. So now I'm on a mission to figure out how to be obsessed and healthy at the same time, because I'm not going to change. I'm very myopic when it comes to things I want to accomplish. But he also said you have to be willing to build and manifest, and just listen to his journey that he talked about. And when you think about what he's overcome to create an amazing life for himself, to take the chance to go to Japan, to have family there, to teach business there, not speak the language, and not be able to know what the food is and not use the chopsticks. It took a lot of panache for him to do what he's doing, to get that first book off the ground, to now 35 books, over 500,000 copies in 16 different languages. That is a great feat to be applauded. If you want to know more about Scott, go to scottallenpublishing.com and check him out. He's starting a school that's going to launch here in another month or two. And I promise you, if you go and you grab one of his books, you probably won't ever stop reading. I'm Derick Gant. Be your best, bring your best, leave nothing to chance. Hey, like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon. Be well.